Hello, this is your host Akhil Navluri, and welcome to a brand new episode of the TechoSpace podcast series. So, in this podcast episode, I'm very much honored and thrilled to welcome our guest, Mr. Gijs Oostendorp, who happens to be a client partnership executive of And Digital. Now, shedding some spotlight about And Digital, it's a company that's completely into the IT services and IT consulting. This company hails from the region of Maidenhead, England. Now, their main objective is to lessen the digital skills gap that is across the global world. Now, shedding some light about Hage himself. Hage is based out of Amsterdam, North Holland, the Netherlands. So, Hage, it gives me a huge honor to welcome you to this podcast initiative. So, how are you doing? And how are things in Netherlands, like, on a climatic basis and on economic basis? How are things going on?
Thank you, Akil, and thank you for inviting me to your podcast. It's a huge honor. Over here in Amsterdam, things are fine. From a climate perspective, literally the weather is okay today, and the economic climate is also doing well. In Europe, there's a huge discussion on where Europe is standing from an AI perspective, and there's the continuous discussion about that Europe might be falling behind. Although that's probably true, we're too much focused on regulation. We also see that in Amsterdam at the moment, in the Netherlands, the economy is still doing well. And that's also, I think, because of the fact that we have quite a tech sector and quite a few startups that are, really paving the way for the next waves to come.
Awesome. So I feel that there's a promise for a right start in the economic terms of the Europe region. I mean the EU region. So on that note, hey, so it's around 4:42 p.m. At the stroke of the hour in India. So let's kick off with our podcast segment. All right. So, Kesh, let's take it from you. Let's start it from you. Let's start it from you on your journey. Like, how did you become an eminent industry leader in the space of design transformation, and any success stories that you would like to share with me and our listeners that you've experienced in your tenure?
Yes, thank you, Akil. Well, I started my career at digital agencies. And eventually, I became a service design director at Fjord in 2015. I've worked for many large blue chip clients on their digital transformation, such as energy companies, banks, and FMCG companies, and worked for lots of clients in the course of the past 10 years and facilitated them and helped them on their digital transformation by applying design methods. I think that's the core of what I do. And currently, I do so at And Digital, as you said, where I'm a client partnership executive, and I help clients in various industries, including the lottery industry and energy. And I enjoy it a lot. We have a great team here. We do more and more, of course, also in data and AI. That's like the next frontier that we really are actively working on. And we're having a great time whilst working with our clients.
Amazing. Now, if I have to ask you this question, like, what is the difference that you find when you're implementing a design transformation for a bank and for that of an energy company?
Good question. Well, I think that's first of all, the beauty of design and these design methods is that they pretty much work for any scope or any domain or environment. They're not specific to either a bank or an energy company. And as a matter of fact, they're not even specific for consumers or B2B environments. They work across any environment you can imagine. And sometimes people are surprised when they hear it, but it's also due to the fact that some people have a much more narrow definition of design than we probably have when we talk about design methods. So when it comes down to design thinking, for example, it's very helpful both for banks and energy companies and more in order to map out their digital transformation.
Awesome. So I think now the difference between them is categorized and understood. Now heading on for this one, like Hish. So Hish, like give me an overview of your tenure when you have worked and collaborated with successful design agencies like Lost Boys, MakerStreet, Fjord of Accenture, and even the and digital company. So
Yeah.
how do you compare this? Yeah.
Yes, of course. So I started my career at LBI Lost Boys around 2008, 2009. Um, and that was a very good foundation for my career in the digital space. At the time, Lost Boys was really a front runner in digital. So we learned about front-end technology, back-end technology. We learned about design for products. We learned about platforms and digital campaigns. Because at the time, those digital agencies did pretty much all of that in-house. And that was a great learning environment. It was like a traineeship almost when I just came out of uni to start learning about digital and applying design methods in practice. And after Lost Boys, I started my freelance career. I did a brief few rounds of freelancing for gigs for various agencies in Amsterdam and abroad. And then eventually in 2015, I joined Fjord. Fjord back then was just acquired by Accenture and became part of the Accenture Interactive business, nowadays known as Accenture Song. And in my role as a service design director and the head of Fjord Amsterdam, I got into a very interesting environment. Fjord at the time was one of the leading design agencies in the world, and we got invited into a lot of digital transformations from various clients from various angles throughout the region, actually. So one of the first pitches and gigs that I did was for an energy company, a large energy company from France. And we mapped out that digital transformation across the region in Europe. And then we rolled it out globally. That was a great experience working with the team in Paris, working with the client in various European countries. And then I basically took that way of working and applied it in the Netherlands. And I started to work for banks, FMCG companies, and construction and natural assets consultancies. So we did several international and global transformations at the time. And after Fjord Accenture, I joined MakerStreet for a brief moment. We did another transformation for a Dutch chemical company, and that was in the space of additive manufacturing, so 3D printing, but in a industrial environment. And that was a very a very good learning experience as well, because before I could rely on large organizations such as Accenture, and now we had to rely on our design capabilities within a boutique firm. But we were very successful actually and delivered the strategy to the board, and we got a very positive feedback on it, and they immediately knew what to do with it, and basically sold the materials branch that we had applied the strategy for. So that was a very interesting learning experience. And after that, after MakerStreet, we started our own agency with a few partners called Human. And Human had several labels. So we had it has a label called Neverland, which will exist and is active in the space of UX design, creative campaigns, and brand identity. We had a label active in the space of agile marketing, a label that was active in what we call metaverse enterprise solutions, and our transformating method, which was basically a trademarked method that included all of the design methods that we had gathered from our experiences before. We had that agency roughly for 3 years, and then I joined and Digital, where I currently work as a client partnership executive. where I work, like I said, for lotteries and clients in the energy business and clients in utilities. A various group of clients.
That's spectacular, Hesh. So now, Hesh, you just were giving an example of a Dutch chemical company. Now, when the Dutch chemical company was talking about 3D printing, I just wanted to understand, did the business come up with a use case that, they themselves wanted to go with the 3D printing, or was it you who convinced them to, opt for that kind of a transformation?
That's a good question. That's always we often get such questions, right? Like, what is the awareness of our clients like? So in this case, the chemical company was already aware of additive manufacturing as a technology that could potentially change their business. So we did not have to convince them of that necessity. In fact, they had a preliminary vision of how that technology could disrupt their business by basically decreasing the amount of materials that are required. And that's very disruptive when you are a materials business, of course. So they had an idea of what their current business models could be like. They just didn't have a shared vision that they could communicate with the wider organization, and they didn't have a design of a prototype or an interface in order to make their vision tangible. So what we did is we helped them to design the interface for their customer portal, and basically that started to make the whole transformation much more concrete and tangible. So it's by applying such design methods, you can actually help your client to turn their vision into a reality, as we say. So that's the power of design.
Awesome. I mean, that motto really comes well in hand when you say that, turn something into reality, and that was what, you have applied. Now, your experience speaks loads and loads of your expertise again, where you have a lot of skills and, a lot of things that, everyone and our listeners can learn about. Now, if I would like to, pose a question to you, Hesh. So, Hesh, like, can you just give me a walkthrough about your expertise with respect to, the business design and different design methods? Like, how would you, put that across?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Akil. And again, it's something that clients have asked us over the past decade. And when I started in my design leadership positions, I found myself having to explain this to several clients. And when you look at, for example, at UX design, right, and a little bit more into the UI UX side of UX. That sort of UI UX design is much more about designing a touch point or designing an interface, right? If you look at it from a digital product perspective, at least. Now, an experienced UX designer will always make sure that he looks into the customer journey and how a customer comes in from one touch point to another. But he does so very much to design that specific touch point. Now, if you look at service design, it looks at the customer journey from a much broader perspective. It looks at it from a human-centric perspective. So, what is the client, the customer, or the consumer actually trying to achieve? How are they living their lives? And you try to fit into that. And you do so by looking into the front-end experience that the service is supposed to deliver, as well as what we call the back-end experience. So what is going on at the backside of the service design? And that includes processes, it can include systems that are involved, everything whatever it takes to deliver that service to the end user. So that's service design. And when you start to talk about it, the front end and back end, like you just heard, you already start to talk about things like systems. So system design is then the evolution of that again, as well as what we started to notice when we are designing the business transformation for our customers, is that you are redesigning what their business is going to look like in a few years. So that's what we call business design. So that's basically in a few large brackets what design methods are about.
Amazing. That's a very clear and a concrete idea of, knowing about different design methods and your expertise with respect to the business design. Now, I've just come to know about this. I was, to you, I was told by that, you have worked on different projects. Now, if I would like to, ask you, like, what are the successful use cases that, you have come across on the space of digital transformation that was happening in the agile methodology or the agile way?
Yeah. So if you open up digital transformation, you basically find a lot of different things in there, right? So um, first of all, I think that a transformation, the way how we apply design methods for transformation, it can be about various different things. So it can be about a digital transformation, which was very popular, of course, in the past decade, or as we did with the energy company, we really start with the customer experience. So then the customer centric transformation is basically what you're leading with. That's the focus point then. But also, we've had many clients, such as again the energy company, that was combining their digital transformation together with the energy transition. So sustainable transformations are also a topic that we often see and that we can apply these methods for. As well as, well, we already spoke about 3D printing, so new tech, and like I'm currently doing for some of my current clients, the product-led transformation is basically the evolution of customer-centric transformations. Because the reason is, of course, the first thing that clients should do is put their customer front and center of everything that they do when it comes down to a digital transformation. But if you want to make that more concrete, a digital product is one of the most central things that they need to work on. And the thing that a lot of clients want to have is, digital product capability in-house. So that is why digital product or product-led transformation has become such a prominent aspect of digital transformations. And of course, the next thing that we're now talking about is the AI-led transformation, or some people also call it the agentic transformation. That also looks more into the role of new AI agents as well as agentic architecture at the back end of the organization. So those are a few important things that we focus on. You mentioned agile transformation. Of course, that's another one. But that's all very well possible to make that more concrete by applying design methods as part of your digital transformation.
Indeed, indeed. Now, you just hinted me with the point of, the AI, led transformation and agentic transformation. We can shed some light on this, but as we go forward in this session, we would like to give a heads up on that. Now, when I'm going to ask you this particular thing, I know you'll just have that moment of pride when you think about that. So, what was that moment like, Hesh, like when you represented Fjord of Accenture for the Netherlands, and as well as you even led the team of the Amsterdam satellite studio in Paris. So how did things unfold in that way?
Yeah, so as head of Fjord Amsterdam, I was representing Fjord in the Netherlands, but that was just a satellite studio of Fjord Paris. The team in Paris back then was responsible for the Paris or the French region, as well as what they call Gallia. So Gallia, for your understanding, is basically France plus the Benelux. So that was the region in which we were operating. And what we did is we served common clients, for example, such as the energy company, the French energy company. We collaborated on that with all of the teams from the Paris studio, or at least a significant part of it. And I also had my Dutch clients, right? So I was serving clients in the Netherlands by leveraging the team from Paris, as well as the Dutch design teams that we had at Accenture in the Netherlands, and sometimes a combination of both. Or we also, on some occasions, worked with the London office. So we basically had international teams that delivered the projects in the Netherlands.
Awesome. Now, if I would just like to, understand this, like, how was it, bringing people from different nationalities and different diverse groups and having them in a team? Did that make a difference in the, in the work that was actually going its way, or did you feel that, certain things did not go that way?
No, I think working with international teams is very beneficial to something like a digital transformation or digital innovation in general, because you get various points of view from people with different cultural backgrounds, and you immediately can benefit from that because you avoid stepping into pitfalls and into wrong assumptions. And I think from an innovation perspective, the end product really benefits from that because it drives adoption. And the same basically goes for the digital transformation, because you want the digital transformation to be successful. Therefore, you want people to adopt the new initiatives as well as the change program, whether that is internally or customer adoption externally. And therefore, in order to be successful at adoption, international teams are fundamental to its success, especially when you operate in an international environment. Then it's very, very useful to have different insights from people with different backgrounds.
That's completely agreeable. I mean, there's always a learning when you have multiple teams with with a lot of cultural background, because they come up with unique set of ideas, and that's completely agreeable on this aspect. Now,
Yeah.
now I've, you even mentioned about a particular point. Remember, you were saying blue chip companies, C-level
Yeah.
blue chip clients. Now, just, shed some light on, on the tenure that, you were serving countless, C-level blue chip clients, who were belonging to different nationalities and who were part
Yeah.
in the space of the business design transformation. So how was that, how was that experience like?
Yeah, so for several of my clients, we work directly with the board. So in the case of a large transformation, we were delivering the project to the CEO directly, and she was, as a CEO, of course, responsible for the success of her company, and she really had a clear vision on where she wanted to head with the company. And we were working shoulder to shoulder with the various board members in the transformation, and we presented the outcomes to the CEO. So that was a very unique experience to work with the board members shoulder to shoulder. And in the case of some of the other projects, I also worked with what we call C-1, which means the level just below the C-suite. But the funny thing is, Akil, that those people quite often have more influence on what the business is doing, because they are working inside the business on a day-to-day basis. So that's also a very good starting point for your transformation, to work with C-1. And then again, once we had the outcomes, we delivered them directly to the C-suite. And they were very enthusiastic about the outcomes of our work, and immediately steered their company towards the direction of our strategy and vision. So it is I think it's necessary that you have C-level sponsorship. Also in the case of the consulting company that we worked with, we had a C-level sponsorship from the CIO, and he was very enthusiastic about our first project. So he basically invited us to the global transformation. And it's important to have that level of sponsorship, because they can take decisions, they can take immediate action, and they need to be on board of the digital transformation, because they are steering their company towards that new direction. But yeah, it's been very insightful and an honor to work with both C-suite and C-1 on these occasions. Definitely.
So if I would like to, just if you would like to, choose a point, if I ask you like what are the things, Hesh, that you will choose? Will you choose the C-level suite or the C-1?
Good question. I think if you are actually working on the project hands-on, C-1 is often where the knowledge sits. But if you deliver your project, if you present it, and you have a C-suite sponsor on board to present it to, and it is the sponsor of the project, you can be so much more impactful with the work that you have done. So both are important, but probably on a day-to-day basis, C-1 is just as fine as C level, sometimes even better. So and having said that, it's not about uh, how high up the people are inside the company that you work with. And what's also very important is that you have people from the different silos. If you look at, for example, the customer, so look at take for example a customer-centric transformation, right? Um, Customer journey mapping is a very important aspect of such a transformation. And if you look at the real journey that customers take, um, it their footprint moves across company silos. So if you want to redesign their experience, you take that point of view, you will see that you touch upon multiple silos. So having cross-functional teams as part of your digital transformation project is far more important than only having people that are high up in a company. And also we involve people from different levels of each silo. So yes, it's great to have C-suite or C-1 on board, but you also want to have a director or a manager or somebody that works in the call center, for example, because they have great insights into the problems that their customers have. So having people from various silos and various levels of the organization, that
Right.
is really what makes the transformation work.
Absolutely. As they say, right, everything has to start from the basics. And as I can understand, C-1 is the basics and the foundation of, making things happen.
Yes, yeah, they are very can be very impactful. That's correct.
Absolutely. Now, I mean, I was completely inspired by this, but I would like to ask your inspiration, like what got you into startup coaching and into, design leadership? Like, how did
Yeah.
that unfold?
So it's a funny story because I coach a startup at the moment, and one of its founders was actually one of the associate partners of my previous firm called Human. But I actually already knew him from our time at Fjord Accenture. So we go quite some years back. It's almost 10 years now. So when he started his new venture, we started to talk about it, and it just seemed to make sense, at least from his perspective, I guess, that he wanted to have me on board as one of their angels. So yeah, we discuss what they're doing frequently, and I give them my opinion, or they inform me about what they're doing, and it's a very interesting journey where we learn from each other. And I think the most cool part of it is by working with such a startup, you really learn a lot about things like AI and the day-to-day application. What works for a startup? What doesn't work? I can take those learnings and then reapply them again in my work for corporate organizations. As their next transformation is, of course, about AI. So having insights from the AI startups and being able to reapply some of those learnings for the corporates is very useful. And the other way around as well, like because I work in the corporate space and we work on their transformation, I can also reapply some of those learnings and coach the startups in order to scale their business.
That's a very concrete detailing about things. Now heading on for the next one. Now before that, as I also want to conclude a particular point in this one. Like, everything is like a trial and error kind of a method. Like when you first start, it's not necessary that it'll be a successful thing. But as you just have that resilience and determination, you can just go forward and just make a thing into a success from the mistakes that you have learned.
Yeah. Yeah. So mistakes are always making mistakes. I think is always a good thing. Without mistakes, we cannot learn, and we continuously learn, right? Whether that is on the job, in the work field, or in private life, we learn so much from all of our mistakes. And I think I've learned both from the projects that I worked on, as well as the different companies that I worked at. And a very important learning experience for me was one of the projects that I had led didn't really give the kind of outcome that the client was expecting, and I learned basically that a couple of things. One, make sure that you set the right expectations with your client. Second, if the team gets feedback, make sure that it is shared effectively across the various team members. Thirdly, make sure that you have a diverse team with, again, people from various backgrounds, and that you, as soon as you spot groupthink, that you challenge this and that you open up an open discussion. If that doesn't work, raise your concerns, right? So those are a few important learnings that I had in that project. And I think on from a perspective of becoming a design leader, yeah, I think I've learned a lot by working at various consultancies. I think actually that being a consultant is a very good way to learn across different projects and across different clients. So you have a very steep learning curve, and you can reapply those learnings again and again. So yeah, I think those are two of the most important learning aspects that I have had across my career.
That's incredible, Hej. Hej, we mentioned out a particular point, which was the agentic led transformation and AI led transformation. But before that, we are seeing certain transitions. So just give me a deep insight on the transition that's happening from the design led transition to the product led transition, and now all the way to the AI led transition or the agentic led transition. Like, what's your take on that?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, yeah. So when I started in a design leadership position and started to work on these global transformations, customer-centric transformation was a very hot topic, and I think it still is nowadays. I mean, I still get these questions in from clients that still struggle with this, and I think it's if they're honest, if they're being honest, a lot of more companies really struggle with that topic still nowadays than they really admit. But putting the customer front and center is vital if you want your digital transformation to succeed. Because if you want to develop successful digital products that are being adopted by your customers, that's the only way basically how you can complete your digital transformation, as well as, of course, you need to build the right design capabilities or development capabilities, and you need to implement the right systems. But customer centricity is key for driving product adoption. And then once you realize that product adoption is important, and having the right product teams in order to deliver those products is key, that's when a lot of customers saw that a product-led transformation was a very important thing that they were trying to achieve. Because once you start to lead with product, you will see that a lot of change will happen in the organization, because you introduce new ways of working, you introduce agile teams, and product teams. People will have to come from various parts of the organization. A lot of our clients also want to centralize those product teams or digital teams. So reshaping the organization then all of a sudden becomes a very logical part of it. So that's again where the business design comes in. So the real business transformation is happening there. And at the back of this, what a lot of traditional product companies are trying to achieve is they try to develop their business from a product company towards a service company. So they might make the shift towards a service economy. And they do so by introducing as a service business models, for example. So service design is a very important component of that. And nowadays, what we see happening is because the digital transformation has been completed for a lot of companies over the past 10 years or more. Nowadays, we see that the AI revolution is, of course, the next frontier. So a lot of our clients are now coming towards us and say, hey, we want you to help us out with our AI-led transformation. And although AI is just a tool, it's a means to an end, this technology offers so much opportunity, so there's so much value in there for them, that leading with this new technology actually becomes a logical next step. It's the next wave of digital transformation that they need to go through to. And at the back of this sits, as I already said, agentic transformation. So that is about applying AI agents in the organization, so the agents can talk to each other, and that brings you then to an agentic architecture that sits at the back of this. So that is the next frontier that we are now working on, and I think that has a lot in store for us. It's an exciting time that we live in, and I'm really looking forward to work on this new transformation with a lot of clients. And still, I think design will be an important part of it. Our clients ask us, like, can you talk to our employees? Can you talk to our customers? Yes, sure, we can. And because again, they will have to adopt this new technology as well. So again, you see that the way how we work and the design methods that we use, they don't change. It's just a new topic that we onboard and that we facilitate our clients in order to become successful at their transformations.
That's a very well noted point when it comes to the transition. And yeah, it's an exciting time ahead, and I'm looking forward for that.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
probably in our next collaboration where we can talk in depth about the AI-led transformation, I think on a deep level. Now, if I would just like to ask you this, Hesh, now you were talking about the digital transformation in an agile way, but would you like to integrate the agentic-led transformation and the AI-led transformation with DevOps, or you just want to stick it with the agile methodology?
Yeah, okay, now I see what you mean. Yeah, so I think we have a convergence of these three topics. So AI, agile working, and DevOps are really coming together, and they're starting to shape the way how we work and the agile teams in a different way. So let's say in the as is situation, if you look at agile teams at many corporate organizations, they are roughly, let's say, 5 people, and one is taking care of product, one of is doing the UI design. Well, you have a front-end developer, back-end developer, and probably potentially another role. Probably they shouldn't go beyond 5. Some organizations have 7. That's already quite large. But if you look at the tech companies, they often already work in smaller teams. But I think what AI will do is it will start to make these teams much smaller. So we'll probably see a shift from, let's say, teams of 5 people towards teams of 3 people, where the people are able to take on multiple roles with the help of AI. So what AI is able to do is they're either able, and it either enables them to do their current skill better, faster, cheaper, or they are able to broaden their scope of work. So let's say a product owner could start to do UI design, or a UI designer could start to do product owner role with the help of AI and agentic tools. So there's a lot of stuff happening there, and same goes for the developer, right? A backend or front-end developer could take on both roles, or they could perhaps a front-end developer could also look into design with the help of the right AI tools, or a designer could, in fact, write a bit of code with the help of AI. So that is why we see a shift currently, and that it's likely that AI teams will, agile teams will either become smaller or basically split. I'm not saying that these people should be replaced, but you can split, let's say, one team into two teams, so you can do more all of a sudden, and those teams can also work faster. Now, will they build products of a higher quality? That is, I think, one of the main questions that we will have to figure out. And again, that also depends on the kind of products that they are developing. I spoke to a design leader the other day who said, we work on such specific problems in the healthcare domain. No way an AI is able to design that interface at the moment, because it's just different paradigms, right? And it's probably true, but I think in a lot of other situations we will see that potential is there for those teams to shift their focus of work sometimes a bit.
I think this is the first time, I'm hearing about a very, very good point, or let's say a strong point about AI that's talking about versatility in the team. Now, in the team, there's a person who's actually, bridging the gap between the business and the IT. So due to the advent of AI, how do you fit a business analyst into a project? And how would you
so let's say, and I was giving the team shape, right? So a business analyst is a good example of one of the fifth role probably that a typical agile team nowadays has. And I think what in the new situation, working with AI, the business analyst could be someone that is very well able to either speed up the way how they work, or start to work across a couple of those agile teams and serve them with the right insights, or they can elevate themselves into becoming a product owner much quicker, for example. So it just depends, I think, on the individual, where they are standing. It depends on the context of the organization, but there's a real opportunity for business analysts to upskill themselves and broaden the scope of work with the help of AI. So that's, I think, an important trend that we see at the moment.
Absolutely, that's a very, very concrete and a detailed point, and I'm sure that the BAs who are hearing this, they would be very much interested and very much inspired to take on this new route altogether.
They are, because our BAs at Digital are already utilizing a lot of AI tools across their projects, both internally and externally. So we really see an increase of their output.
Amazing. So, Hesh, before we conclude our podcast segment, I'm just going to come up with a very, very, lighthearted rapid fire round. So, the first question to you, this is like completely, all exclusive of all the technical discussions that we were having in this segment. So, what is your preference? Do you like, watching movies in a theater or on OTT?
Oh, good question. I prefer the cinemas, I think, if I would have to choose, because I can take my family to the cinema. I have 3 children myself, and my girls, they love the cinema, and I'm going next week again. And we're bringing our youngest one, my son, as well, and it'll be his first time because he's just 3 years old. But yeah, the cinemas is a completely different experience. It's a family day out, or it's date night with my wife. Or watching series via over-the-top players such as Netflix is just either a way of killing time or boredom, or getting absorbed in the next binge watching gig of a few episodes of XYZ. It's a different experience to me. So, but if I had to choose, probably the cinemas because of the experience.
Amazing. Now, I've asked you a question about cinema. Like, is there any Indian film that you have watched by chance?
Oh, good question. Well, not that I don't know them by name, but on one of my business trips to our office in London, I stayed in a hotel in London, and the hotel actually had a in-house cinema within the hotel. And funny enough, they were broadcasting a lot of Bollywood movies. So, and
Yeah.
I was just curious, and I walked into the cinema, and it was actually playing a Bollywood movie at that moment. And I sat there in the cinema and really enjoyed the Bollywood movie, but I don't know the name of the movie anymore.
No
But it
worries,
was
no
great.
worries. Yeah. I mean, a
Non-stop
lot of,
dancing.
absolutely, absolutely. A lot of, big titles. Sometimes we also, need to understand like what is the meaning of the movie, and yeah, certain things are
Yeah,
hodgepodge
of
as well.
course there are the blockbusters like Slumdog Millionaire and stuff. But my first association with Bollywood cinema is the experience that I had in London.
Oh, that's a beautiful experience. I mean, amazing. What's your favorite Indian food?
Ooh, great question. Yeah, I love street food actually. I've been a lot to Southeast Asia, but not India, unfortunately. I've been to Indonesia and Thailand and Cambodia. But I on my trips to London, because I go there quite frequently, I love stepping into the Indian restaurants that you have there, and it's always great. But I don't know the name of the dishes, but I like the spinach dish. I love that with the white cheese, I think it is, or something.
Yeah, it's called palak paneer.
Yes, that one. Thank you. Thanks for
Amazing.
helping out.
Anytime, anytime. I mean, that's even my favorite dish as well. So high five for that.
Hey, there we go.
Absolutely. Now, what's your favorite football team in the Dutch Eredivisie?
Ah, very good question. Well, I'm based in Amsterdam, right? So it has to be Ajax.
Ajax. Awesome. So, what was your favorite football memory that you have seen as a child?
Ooh. Um, as a child, I have a very vivid memory of the Euro Cup of 1988. That was the one time, the first and only time that the Netherlands won a such a large cup. But I can really remember very clearly how we won the finals and the semifinals. The semifinals was very historic and epic, and then we also won the final match, and that really brought a huge excitement to the Netherlands, which was the first time that we had really had the orange craziness. And people were when the team came back to Amsterdam, they were going through the canals of the city, and people were jumping on the boats. And I think some of the boat owners were not so happy because of that. But no, it was the first time that we really saw that. Orange Dutch craziness, and that was the most clear memory that I have from my childhood when it comes to football.
Wonderful, wonderful. I mean, the way you were narrating it, I, feel that I should have experienced that thing in the first hand. Amazing.
You can look it up.
Surely, surely, I would. I'm a huge football fan, and I love reading about a lot of football articles, and I have a lot of football books, especially about the UEFA Champions League. So that
Wow.
fits my
Wow.
my checklist for sure. So, Hesh, thank you so much for being part of this podcast
Thank you.
initiative, and thank you so much for taking time from your busy schedule. And I really, really had a great conversation through this, through this medium, especially the way you're talking about the design transformation and how does it complement with that of the AI-led transformation in the future run, and about the different design methods which you were, trying to categorize, and along with that, the way you were let's say talking about how can we talk about the digital transformations that's happening in an agile way in a project, and the way even you convinced a Dutch chemical company on how to use the 3D printing. So all these insights that I've heard from you, they were completely remarkable. So thank you so much, Hesh, once again for being part of this initiative.
Yeah. Thank you, Akil, for having me on your podcast show. It was a great honor. And who knows, hopefully we'll talk again in the future sometime.
Definitely, our next collaboration is on, so no worries on that.
Great. Thank you a lot.
Amazing. So, listeners, before we conclude our podcast episode, this is an open request to all the industry leaders out there who are hearing to my podcast. If you have any useful, interesting journey or key useful insight that you would like to share through my podcast episode, you could reach out to me on my email ID, akhil.navluri55@gmail.com, or you could message me on my WhatsApp number that's present on the profile page of my podcast channel, Or there's a new option now. You could just directly DM me on my Instagram handle, the Techospace Podcast. And whatever it is, I'm going to get to you as soon as possible. And who knows, it's going to be you next time, the next industry leader that I would be collaborating very soon in the future. So on this note, this is your host, Akhil Navluri, signing off. We will be back with another podcast episode with another eminent industry leader very soon. Till then, keep listening. Stay tuned. Thank you. Take care. And au revoir. Thank you.